Okay, in this video I want to talk about Saturn. And in a lot of the timing videos, especially with chronic illness and depression and things like that, Saturn has a pretty consistent role, it seems. And so it's an archetypal energy that we struggle with as humans. And if Saturn flows strong in us, and Saturn has maturity, so if we're constantly sort of rising to the occasion of doing the responsible thing, then Saturn flows strong in us. And we tend not to have chronic issues due to the timing of when the chronic issues become extreme flows with those Saturn transits. And people who have a strong Saturn don't tend to have negative physical side effects, because a lot of that Saturn is responsibility is eating right too, exercising. All those things are sort of responsible, mature things. So a lot of things fall under sort of the umbrella of the Saturn archetype. And again, all these planets exist within us. They have universal archetypes, but in each of our own charts, that planet is in a different sign, and then a different house, and it's making different angles with all of the other planets. That's why it's all so unique, and everybody's got a very individual chart. And so in a lot of the readings that I give and talking to people, a very universal sort of thing that I talk about is defining Saturn for yourself. And so Saturn is this archetype of maturity. And I think one of the keys to health all the way around when looking at all of these planetary archetypes and energies is recognizing that modern culture and society kind of defines how a human is supposed to express those energies for us through movies, all sorts of just subtle and not so subtle ways. But judgment is a big part of the way Saturn is judged. Saturn is the planet of judgment. Who's more equipped to judge than the person who's acted the most responsibly their whole life? There's an integrity might be the key word to Saturn in the end. I think it's integrity. It says that becomes the trusted judge who's earned. Saturn, the word earn comes from Saturn because Saturn earns everything. Saturn doesn't rely on luck. Saturn doesn't hope for the best. Saturn just knows to the grind and do it because it's the right thing to do. That's the Saturn energy. And now we all have our own inner psychological sense of looking out at the world and how do I take responsibility for my place in it? How do I grow up based on the circumstances that I'm in and my ability to sort of, Saturn's about goals and achieving long distance, long-term goals that make more profound long-term change on the world. If you some of the greatest things that have ever been accomplished have taken a long time to get there. Somebody sat and really had an idea fleshed out and then brought it into life somehow, physically, whatever it is. So Saturn wants to, and this is a part of you, you want to accomplish something here, and it's all about that sense. And so now society will sort of define this for you. And I'm going to just take a quick aside and say, getting into the symbolism and the syncretism of all things, Saturn is Satan. When you look into the stories of the Bible and the archetypes, but what Saturn is it represents time, so it represents what you really put your long-term, serious, most mature sort of attention towards in this life? Are you making that decision for you, or are you sort of letting society decide how you go about doing that? Because society will say that, you work hard at school, you get good grades, you get into a good college, you work hard there, study, memorize, repeat, all that stuff. And in the process, you got to take on some debt. That's just part of being a grown-up in this world. You got to go to college. If you want to get a good job, you got to take on some debt. And, you vote, right? That's the responsible thing to do. Better yet, the really responsible thing to do before you go into that college silliness is you join the military, right? That's like this very, very, very sort of applauded responsible action in society. Is it responsible to just follow orders blindly to kill other people for reasons that you don't really know? There's a lot of just trust in why. Is that really responsible? They'll have you believe that it's really responsible. Just like they'll have you believe that it's really responsible to trust modern medicine and vaccinate your children. That's the responsible thing to do, people. You gotta take responsibility for the herd. I don't know. I mean, not to get into that side argument, there's all sorts of side arguments. But are you doing your work, or are you just trusting society says this is the responsible thing to do? I think the responsible thing to do is keep your kid's immune system healthy, which is the opposite of what vaccinating your kid does. I don't know. I don't put faith into anything. That's the whole deal about a lot of this stuff. Saturn's hard work. Saturn's self-reliance. All about self-reliance. So before I get strayed too far on this, getting back to Saturn is Satan and Saturn is time, what are you putting your time into? And this is going to be a lot of tough love for a lot of people. I'm just going to come out and sort of be as raw and honest as I can about the way I see it and the negative effects that it has on the world. I think there's a lot of people who they get this degree, they put all this work in. It takes a lot to get a degree. It takes a lot to get a higher degree. You get your master's and your doctorate. You're investing more and more time and more effort and hard work and all this Saturn stuff. And you've got all this debt now that you're this deep into school. But now you've got this career, that you can go do, but you can't. You're sort of trapped, You've got too much debt. You spent too much time focused on this one career. That if somebody like let's say you're a doctor, and somebody like me comes along and shows you very clearly through any number of examples that anybody's willing to invest the time to look at, that there's a whole lot more going on to the human cycles of health and disease than you ever thought. Doctors live in the world of effects. They do not comprehend the world of causation. There's an energetic causation to every physical manifestation. All of them. Not some of them, not kind of. Everything, all natural phenomenon is an effect of an energetic causation. And that's just the way it is. And if you don't go to, the root, the causation, you're not really healing anything. You're just masking the effects. And I'll say that that's what Western medicine is about. And so if you're somebody like that who spent 8 years in school, maybe 10 years in school, and now you're a doctor with an ego filled with, I'm, the brightest student that ever walked the earth, and everybody bows down to me, and everybody says how awesome I am because I'm a doctor, and everybody strokes my ego. It's really hard to listen to me, because your whole life crumbles apart because it's an illusion. And now I don't want to knock these people, because these people go into this with the best of intentions. You know, it's noble to be a doctor. There's a lot of stuff they have to witness. You know, I don't envy anybody going into that profession. I couldn't do it, even in, you know, even if I was in that mindset and just believed in that stuff, throwing pills at things and believing that that was healing anybody. And you know, so that's a whole lifetime. That's somebody's whole lifetime who chose to devote themselves to health and healing, who never even begins to get there. You know, that's the devil stealing your time. That's Satan. Your time, all of your effort, all that hard work. Yeah, you help mask people's symptoms. You help sort of prolong their life and live with more ease than they would have otherwise, but they never really heal. That's a whole different process. Holistic healing's a whole different process than taking a bunch of pills to mask your symptoms. And so you can do that. You can practice medicine in the modern traditional Western sense, and you know, you can go on, I don't know, they seem to all go on some computer program, type in some symptoms, and it pops out what drug you're supposed to give them, and you know, what protocol. And that's sort of the way medicine works nowadays. Nobody understands the patient as an individual energetic signature being affected currently by the, you know, the current energetic signature of the moment in time of the, you know, current season. So that's the idea of, you know, defining your own Saturn for yourself.